Hi there, I'm Phil. Welcome to another in our series on essential movies, where I take a spoiler-free look at a movie that every young film student and budding filmmaker should check out. Today, we're looking at Easy Rider.
Looking for adventure in whatever comes our way.
I wasn't sure whether to do this as an essential movie or do a full deep dive on this as a story analysis, but since I expect most of my audience haven't seen this film, we're treating it as an essential movie. But nevertheless, I'll probably go into a bit more detail here than I normally would, but this is the kind of film which you can't really spoil too much anyway. Now, it was written by Peter Fonda, who produced the film, Dennis Hopper, who directed the film, and Terry Southern, who's an experienced screenwriter. And of course, Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper play the leads. That alone is a bit disputed about who wrote what, but it's widely agreed that most of it was improvised on the spot while they were shooting. There was a script, or there was an outline at least, developed by Peter Fonda and Terry Southern, and Dennis Hopper had a lot of input in the development of that and how things changed. It's safe to say this is one of the greatest American films of the 1960s counterculture.
You've got a nice place. It's not every man that can live off the land, you know. You do your own thing in your own time.
It was kind of the first real counterculture film that worked. And by counterculture, I mean the American late 1960s movement of the war in Vietnam and the race riots and the hippie movement and all of that youth culture from that era.
Turn on, tune in, drop out.
Prior to this, film was about the counterculture made by people of that age. Films like The Trip or Psych Out weren't terribly good. This was the first actually good film made by people who understood what they were talking about. Unless you count Head, the Monkees movie, which I kind of do actually.
The Monkees. Mickey, Davy, Mike, Peter in Head.
But that one's just a bit of fun. Now that said, the making of the film was a bit of a process. Dennis Hopper is, shall we say, a volatile personality as an actor and potentially as a director. There's a lot of stories about how he behaved on set. And in fact, everyone was stoned most of the time, apparently, while they were shooting the film. And there are scenes in the film where they're smoking, and they're actually smoking marijuana.
Oh, no thanks. I got some store-bought right over here in my own.
No, man. This is grass.
You mean marijuana?
Yeah.
So they are stoned in those scenes. Even Jack Nicholson managed to remember his lines. There were lines, there was dialogue.
The result of this has been that the Venusians have contacted people at all walks of life.
But he's also stoned.
Walks of life.
Now, a lot of these people came up through the Roger Corman alumni film school. Jack Nicholson's worked in early Roger Corman films, as had Peter Fonda. So there's this whole movement of new people coming up in Hollywood, and it's in that year, 1968-69, that they're all starting to really emerge and make good stuff. After this film came out, there came the film of Woodstock, which is another major countercultural landmark film for the time. And from that point came a lot of great films thereafter, including things like The Graduate and Alice's Restaurant. And at the same time, on stage in Broadway, Hair had just opened. That was the best version of counterculture on stage. So what is Easy Rider about? Well, it's about a couple of guys traveling across America on chopper motorbikes. Simple as that. And the people they encounter along the way. It's a very picaresque journey in many ways, structurally speaking. And the poster actually puts this really well. A man went looking for America and couldn't find it anywhere. No one thought the film would do well. In fact, those making the film thought it would be a disaster because it was a very chaotic production process. Thank God they had Laszlo Kovacs on cinematography, and there are some gorgeous shots in this film. Being largely shot outdoors, God is their art director. So it's a beautiful film to look at. And you'll notice that Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper are not wearing helmets. It actually wasn't a legal requirement in 1967 to wear a helmet on a motorbike. So the film was largely improvised, a lot of the dialogue, certainly with the scenes between Hopper and Fonda, although this little speech that the Jack Nicholson character says in the latter part of the film pretty much defines the entire theme of the film.
Oh, they're not scared of you. They scared of what you represent to them.
Hey, man. All we represent to them, man, is somebody who needs a haircut.
Oh, no. What you represent to them is freedom.
Now that said, there's not a lot of story here. It's very much about two characters on a road trip and the people they meet along the way and the problems and the obstacles they face. The original cut of this was around 4.5 hours apparently. They got it down to about 90 minutes eventually. But being a very freeform film, you could do that, and the story, such as it was, wouldn't suffer too much. Because after all, it's not about plot, it's about character and setting. Another innovation this film brought in was the way it uses music. Using pre-existing music in a film was rare, but this was one of the first films that used current, modern rock songs as the score. There is no musical score otherwise, it's all songs. And most of the songs are played almost in full.
That he not busy being born, is busy dying.
The ending of the film does tend to lose focus, admittedly, but the climax really packs a punch and is a final statement on what this film is fundamentally about.
Why don't you get a haircut?
And ironically, while it's very much a film of its time, and speaking to the differences in American culture at that time, it speaks a lot to today's America. So I recommend you watch Easy Rider, partly because it's an important film in American culture. It marked a turning point. It heralded a new generation of filmmakers. They were changing the rules, after all, about how a film could be made and what it could be made about. If you like these kinds of videos, you know what to do. If you'd like to learn more about filmmaking, check out my book linked below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Don't bogart that joint, my friend. Pass it over to me. Don't bogart that joint, my friend. Pass it over to me.